Hey guys, welcome back. I have an exciting update to share. Spoiler alert, seamless server transfer is going to be a reality. We got official info from Epic on the multi-server replication plugin in two different places. On the forums, and in what was a bit of a surprise, an Epic developer came into the OWS Discord to answer some of our questions. We'll get into that in a minute, but first, a lot of people ask me what I have been working on. I haven't been able to say much until now, but I got the okay from our marketing manager to give you a sneak peek into the soon-to-launch game and a link where you can download the game right now on Steam and help us playtest it. Wildcard is a free-to-play collectible card action game that blends third-person action combat with strategic deck building. Play as a champion, summon powerful creatures, and battle for victory in dynamic arena fights. Let's get into the game. So we're going to click on play, and then we're going to go to bot practice. Let the server load up. Okay, we got to pick our character. I worked on Ragna when she was first added to the game. I worked on the animation and movement, the gameplay ability, so we're going to pick Ragna. And Wildcard is a deck building game, and so I've got one already set up here called my Ragna. I got my talents, I got my summons, and I got my wild cards. Okay, so we got a bit of a three-piece combo here for swinging, right? Punch, 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 kick. This was done with a gameplay ability. At one point, we actually had it to where you had to like hit a certain window of time to go into the next combo. And then started talking to the game designers and stuff, and realized it really just wasn't that kind of game. So now it basically just as long as you get the next input in before the that animation ends, it just advances to the next one. So it's just kind of a simple 1, 2, 3. It is implemented in a gameplay ability blueprint. As are all the abilities in this game. So we got that kind of thing going as our main attacking. We've also got some sprinting ability here, so that's also done with a gameplay ability. I think Ragna gets 2 sprints before it goes to a cooldown. One of the main things, though, about this game, and what makes it really fun and different to a lot of other games, is that down at the bottom here, I'm moving my mouse wheel, and I can pick which of these 4 cards I want to summon, and then you can see there's also one that's telling me what's the next one I'm going to get. So let's summon this big giant guy. Look at that. Isn't he awesome? You can see there's kind of a mana bar at the bottom, and that kind of allows... they have different costs, like 2, 3, and 4. So if I run out, I can't keep summoning new summons. You can see I've also got a goalie here that's kind of helping me. The goal is to knock out the enemy goalie, and then basically then this sphere kind of opens up behind it and you can score. There's also this wild card down here that I can take. These are one of those things that I picked when I started. So I can go here. Okay, cool, I can pick this up. Boom. Gives me like a boost. Love this big giant guy. He's awesome. I think it's Infernus. I think right now there's, I don't know, 50 or 60 different summons, but there's soon to be like 200 or 300. So it's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of the game is, just figuring out the right deck to build and the right things to summon at the same time. So it's pretty cool. The UI in this has some really interesting design in that it is basically listening for messages. So the game is sending messages, and then the UI is actually listening for those. I'll show you guys in a future video kind of how that works, but it's a pretty cool way to loosely couple your UI system from your game code. But it really allows you to be more flexible when you have to change things and not just have to, go and rewrite everything because everything is tightly coupled. So anyway, that is that is Wildcard, and I just wanted to give you guys a sneak peek, kind of talk about it. I'll probably talk about it more in future videos, some of the different things we did that were a lot of fun. But we're getting ready to launch soon, and I'm super excited. Here is what I need you to do to help me out. There are 3 links in the video description. The first is to wishlist Wildcard on Steam. This will help with the Steam algorithm. The second is a link to get access to a playtest version of the Wildcard game. I'm really interested in your feedback. This coming Saturday, starting around lunch in the US Eastern Time Zone, the servers will go online and you can join me for some 2v2 PvP testing. The third link is to join the Wildcard Discord. Thank you in advance for your help. Now let's take a look at the official updates on the multi-server replication plugin. A few weeks back, a programmer from Epic that worked on the multi-server replication plugin showed up in the OWS Discord and answered some of our questions. I'm not sure how they found us. Maybe someone shared the Discord with them, or maybe they went and saw one of my videos and clicked on the link from there. But super thankful that they came in and helped us with some things. The big thing that they helped us understand is we had been running into issues where when a net correction came through, everything crashed. And so one of the things that they helped us to understand is that the UE underscore with underscore remote underscore object underscore handle, right? This thing that we had been defining as a compiler setting, it isn't working in the public branch. And they're not even sure yet how they're going to implement it. He basically said, hey, it's in a private branch. It's not part of the public code, and it may never be part of the public code. And this was likely the cause of the net correction issues that we were seeing. But also they let us know that it's not required, right? You can use the multi-server replication plugin without defining this. So that was super helpful. We probably would have spent a ton of time on wild goose chases trying to figure out what was going on. But luckily we can just turn that off. So super thankful to the Epic programmer for helping us out with that. The next big thing is that there is an official post on the forums. So as far as I know, this was the first official word where they, said more than just, hey, there's this thing in the update, and gave us some info on it. And you can see I've got some of it summarized there, but let's go take a look at the actual post and let's go through it. So here is that post. And so you can see they've got a cool little graphic there. Very similar to what we came up with, where clients are connecting to proxy servers, and then those proxy servers can connect to one or more game servers. And of course, then they also show that the game servers can talk amongst each other. So you can see here that it says the plugin's server-to-server feature uses the engine's online beacons to connect server instances, allowing them to communicate with one another using RPCs over the beacon connection. So they could potentially be talking about the purple and the red lines there, but as we'll see a little bit later here, I think they're talking a bit about the red lines. So the intention of the plugin is to provide a generic, this is important, solution for a multi-server networked project, and so these beacons just provide a way for server instances to communicate with each other. They do not handle the replication or management of gameplay objects between servers, as how they should be handled will be specific to each project. Okay, so it's important to note here when they say they don't handle replication, the purple lines do. I think they're talking about the red lines here. So the red lines do not, they're not trading any data between them. So the game servers, they're not talking to each other. Now, the beacons provide a way to do it, meaning that we could build RPCs between them, which is what we'll likely do. But it's important to note there that it's a generic solution and that they did not implement that part because, as they say, it will be handled by each specifically to each project, right? So very important to remember that. Proxy servers, okay, that's we're looking at the proxy server layer here, sit between the interconnected game servers and clients, handling the aggregation and replication of actors from the game servers to the clients. And they are designed to scale to a high number of connected clients. This is really cool. This is exactly what we thought, is that basically the game server, let's just say we only had one game server. Let's just make it simple. There's only one game server. Think of it as like an OWS zone. And you've got 50 proxy servers, right? Because the game server is only connected to the proxy server, it only has to send messages to those 50 proxy servers. It doesn't have to send them to all the clients, right? Which reduces the load on that game server. Then each of the proxy servers is being used to fan out those replicated messages to all the clients, and you could end up with some massive counts. I think we could easily see thousands of clients connected to a single game server through proxy servers, right? Not directly, but through proxy servers. Here is the really exciting one. This is the exciting one. I teased this earlier. Proxies also allow for clients to migrate between servers, providing the low-level functionality to seamlessly reassign a client's connection to a different primary server. In just a bit, we'll go into this in more detail. This is super exciting. This is what we've wanted for years. Seamless server transfer is now possible. Please note that the multi-server replication plugin is experimental. Yep, we knew that. And it is currently under active development. As such, its design, API, and any plans around its development are subject to change. And, the rest of it all ties in with that. So let's look at a few of the questions. What type of experience is the plugin targeting? The plugin's goal is to provide a generic solution for any experience needing a multi-server system, right? So what they're saying here is when one server instance isn't enough, this is a potential solution that's done in a generic way, meaning we're going to have to add our own custom code to it. It's not going to work by itself. They're not building the end solution for you. They're building a framework that you can then use to build your end solution. Our internal testing of the plugin has seen it used for a large map where each game server handles a portion of the map. However, projects can implement server-to-server RPCs to suit their specific needs. So this is awesome here because this is basically what we want to use it for too, right? We want a large map. Think what we do in OWS, right? We take a large map, we split it up into zones. Right now, when you move between zones, oh no, now you have to have a loading screen. Well, with this, we can now have each one of those game servers is a different zone, and then we're switching between them seamlessly, no loading screens. That's what we want too. It looks like that's what they've been testing it to do, so that is great to see. What state is shared between servers? So they're talking about these game servers here, right? And these red lines. And they're telling you by default, no gameplay state is replicated or shared between servers. This must be custom implemented using RPCs on the server-to-server beacons. Now, if we just want each game server to represent an OWS zone, and we don't want you to be able to see across the zones, then we actually don't need any state replication. But we have that option available. So it's very possible that we will be able to create custom solutions now using those beacons to be able to communicate across zones. If you saw one of my old videos a long time ago, where I was sending messages between the two zones and then we were able to see people on the other side. We could do something really simple like that, or potentially something even more complex. How do you forward RPCs from servers to client? The proxy will handle forwarding RPCs from a client's primary server, which is the server that owns the client's player controller pawn, to that client. To forward a RPC from another server, the RPC should be sent to the client's primary server so this server can call the RPC. Otherwise, projects must implement custom handling for forwarding the RPC. Okay, so this is the part that's talking about the remote object ID, the thing that we said that didn't need to be on. So how does the plugin avoid netcode collisions? And then they talk here about remote object IDs enabled with the UE with remote object handle, and matches what we were told by the Epic programmer. It's a separate feature, and so the plugin can be used without it. However, it is worth noting that our testing of these remote object handles has used internal tech. This is, again, what we were told by the Epic programmer. That is not available in the engine, and at this time, we do not have any roadmap to share as to when that functionality may be made available. So what I'm hearing here is you got to use it without this UE with remote object handle. Do proxy servers use ticks? So this is something we discussed a bit with the Epic programmer. I was suggesting ideas of where like we could potentially run some logic on the proxy servers, but by default, these proxy servers are meant to be fully transparent, no logic, no game code runs in the proxy servers. They only exist for the purpose of fanning out those messages from the game servers, no functionality on them. I'm still going to play around with some ideas potentially to try running some logic on it because I have some ideas. But by design, doesn't look like it's meant to do that. What objects do proxies migrate between servers? Proxies can handle reassigning a client's player controller and connection to a different server, but it is up to projects to determine when migration should occur. Any higher level handling, including migrating the player's pawn or other object instances, must also be implemented by the project and requires remote object support to be enabled. So that last line is a little bit worrisome because it almost makes it sound like you need the remote object handle stuff, which they're not giving us. So I hope that's not the case, but I've been experimenting with this. There is a function that can be called to migrate actors from one primary server to the other. And it does have a piece of code in it that's wrapped with if defined UE with remote object handle, but it looks like it's an optional piece. So it does seem like it works without it. I know this line seems to be saying that that's not true. I'm still trying to do some more experimentation on that to see, but my initial thoughts are that it does appear that you can use it without that, but we'll see. We'll see. I'll let you know what I find on that. But I looked at the code and it definitely looks like it should work. Can proxy servers migrate between game servers? Currently, proxies are always connected to all game servers, but it's planned to allow them to connect and disconnect as needed. Yeah, so right now, every proxy server actually connects to every game server. It's just that your player controller and your pawn only exist in their full form on your primary. But since they are connected to the other ones, you know, you can do some things with that. Does the plugin work with Iris? So we were told that currently, this was a few weeks ago, it doesn't work with Iris, but they're working on it, and we've actually seen a ton of commits recently to the project related to fixing things with Iris. So I'm hoping that Iris is up and running soon. And you might be thinking, well, why do we need Iris? Iris is kind of a more general purpose solution to replace the replication graph, which I consider deprecated at this point. And one of the really cool things that's in Iris, though it is a option you have to enable, is the concept of push rather than polling, right? So polling basically says, did something change? Did something change? Did something change? Did something change? But you can switch it to the push model. It doesn't have to sit there and do that, you know, wasteful polling, and basically just pushes messages when something actually changes. So hopefully they'll get it working with Iris soon. But for now, I disabled Iris in the test project I'm working with. Can it work with the editor? Yeah, it can be used in the editor. However, please note that remote, yeah. So remember, the ability to turn on or off those remote object handles was not supported in the editor because it's a compile option. But again, we're leaving that off, so that shouldn't be an issue. For a game server in a multi-server setup, how does the per player performance cost compare to a standard server? So what it's telling you here, and this is an important thing to remember, is that the per player performance cost of the two cases should be about the same. I would actually say potentially higher. So this is the downside, is that this solution probably does not do anything to lower the per player performance cost. It could even slightly increase it because of now the addition of proxy servers. But what this does allow us to do is get things like seamless server transfer, to get things like thousands of players on the same game server instance. That's the kind of stuff it gets us, but probably at a slightly increased cost, or in their case, saying about the same. How many clients, proxies, and game servers can be connected at the same time? Again, they're saying that they can't provide any estimates. I think my opinion is that this likely could be in the thousands of connected clients. But we'll see. We'll see what we can get with that. And then again, here they're just telling you that it works transparently between them. So that's the update from Epic, and so we're super happy to get an official word on that finally. Okay, so talking about seamless server transfer and thinking about it in what is it we're doing here, how is it different than seamless transfer we've talked about in the past? So in the past, when we were talking about seamless server transfer, we were talking about client 1 is connected to server A, and then they seamlessly transfer to being connected to server B. Okay, that's not what's happening here. It's not like that at all. What's happening here is that client 1 connects to proxy server X, stays connected to proxy server X the entire time, but remember, it's a transparent proxy. But their primary game server started on A. They walked across some line, something triggered, and now their primary game server is server B, right? And you might be thinking, okay, well, that doesn't really seem that useful because you're still connected to proxy server X. Well, the reason that this is important is because remember that a lot of things in a game have to be done based on proximity, right? Actors that are close to each other. And so what this allows us to do is that server A is like zone A, server B is zone B, and those are areas of the map. And so by us seamlessly transferring our primary between A and B, what we're doing is saying, while our primary is A, do collision with things in A, right? Do traces with things in A. But then when we go to server B, now collision and traces and any other kind of logic is now in server B. Now, this throws out completely the concept of, server A and server B interacting with each other. That's a whole separate thing. But what we're looking here in this seamless transfer here, related to OWS zones and stuff, is this idea to basically works the same as like OWS, but we can move between them without any loading screens. So we look at what that looks like, is that each game server could be an OWS zone, right? So these could be sections of your map, just like when you create OWS zones. And then the clients that come in, they're just randomly connecting to proxy servers, right? So there's no concept of like this proxy server is for this zone, this proxy server is for this zone. You're just spinning up more, right? So like, let's just say we decide that a proxy server can hold 50 people. That 51st person comes in, next one goes up. They are 51 through 100. Then 101 through 150 is the next one, and so on. And of course, as the number of connected players go down, we can have OWS start pulling those proxy servers down to save us resources. So OWS would be able to then manage the proxy servers and the game servers, right? So there'd have to be like separate modes for how it handled these. It would know the difference between the game server being for the zone and the proxy server really just being related to the number of clients connected. And so then what would happen is, let's say that this was game server A and this was your primary, and so the client's connecting to a proxy, they're connected to this one, they walk across some zone line trigger, and now they're connected to this second game server. And that then allows them to seamlessly transfer between zones. And as I said in the past, interaction between zones is optional. In the simplest implementation, you don't see anybody on the other side of the zones, but you do seamlessly move between them. In a more complicated implementation, we could potentially, people who are at the edge, maybe like I did last time where I had certain box volumes at the edge, people that are in those ones close to the edge, we could maybe be sending what they're doing back and forth so that you could see them. Maybe not necessarily interact with them, but you could at least see them. A lot of options there. We can look at more at that in the future. Other UE 5.7 updates, man. There's a lot of exciting stuff in 5.7. I've been playing around with Preview 1 the last few nights, and I just wanted to call out a few things. So procedural content generation is now production ready. This is really cool. If you're not using this procedural content generation thing yet, you need to. It's pretty awesome. It can be used to procedurally build all of the foliage in your world, rocks, cliffs, a lot of stuff like that, and also to build dungeons. So there's a lot of cool stuff there. Nanite foliage now has voxels for better performance and better coverage in the distance. So you'll remember that I had one of my past videos, I show us the option where we can turn on preserve area so that as you zoom out away from nanite foliage, it doesn't get smaller, it still covers that area. Well, this new voxel mode that you can turn on just by changing a drop down in the nanite foliage is much better and also performs better. So very exciting stuff there. But one of the coolest things is this new procedural vegetation editor. It looks amazing, and I don't think you're going to need speed tree anymore. Let's just take a quick look at that. Okay, so here we go. This is the new procedural vegetation editor. And so what you've got here is you've got this European beech tree, and you can see that there's these different variants, okay? So this is like you see anytime you work with this stuff, you've got different variations, right? So there's one a little bit different. Here's a smaller sapling, another smaller sapling, right? And so you got these different variations. And these are basically constructed from individual pieces, right? They're constructed from branches and leaves. And we can edit all of that through these BP nodes, right? So we've got carve, gravity, scale, remove branches, mesh builder, bone reduction, foliage palette. These are the things. It's defined another data asset that it uses to put them together. Foliage distributor, and then it basically goes to the output. And the cool thing about that is that, yeah, there's this data asset where you define those pieces. And then if we come into the output node, this is not the tree itself. It's not the foliage itself. It's just a tool to generate them. And so it can output skeletal meshes or static meshes. You can turn on nanite foliage or not. And then remember I talked about that voxelize or preserve area. So preserve area was the legacy technique we were using. But going forward, I would use voxelize on everything, and should give you better performance, and also works a lot better as you zoom in and out. So I just thought I'd show you that because it's pretty cool. Go check it out. It is a plugin, so you will have to come in here, and you will have to go into plugins and procedural vegetation editor experimental. You have to turn this on. So then you'll be able to edit it. If you go into the plugins content folder, there's actually some demo assets in there you can play around with. But I'll also be looking at how we can load stuff in from Megascans as well to create our own. So pretty cool, really exciting feature there. Definitely take a look at it. If you have any questions, please join our Discord. The link will be in the description below, along with those links related to Wildcard. Please come out and play Wildcard with me on Saturday. And then a little bit later, I think it's Monday the 13th, I'm going to be doing a bigger event where we all get together and play Wildcard, and I'll get you some more info on that later. But until next time, have a good one. See ya.